In this video, I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew this stylish halter neck Basque dress with gathers. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. Now to start, I'm going to start by drafting out the pattern. Now I'm going to mark my shoulder to bust line, my shoulder to under bust line, my shoulder to waistline. I'll be adding additional 7 inches because of the basque, although I'm not going to use the total length. So I'll go ahead to repeat the same process by marking my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and also the basque length. So I'll place my ruler and I'll go ahead to mark a straight line on those points, right? So after marking this, we'll go ahead to insert my measurement. But before that, I'll label my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and blouse or basque length, sorry. Now, at the upper part of my pattern, I'll be marking my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 inches divided by 2. I have 7 inches. So from that point, I'll just come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. I'll go ahead and mark a basic neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches. This neckline is just serving as a guide for this pattern, and I'll go ahead to place my curve drill to connect. Now from the neckline, I'll extend to my shoulder slant. The next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to find my chest line. And to find my chest line or armhole is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now, after marking this, I'll go back and mark my shoulder divided by 2 here. Now, I'll go ahead to place the ruler and draw a straight line. I'll place back my tape and I'll divide what I have here into 2 equal parts. From that point, I'll come out by ½ inch. I'll place my tape at the chest line. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now, I'll place my ruler, connect from this midpoint all the way up, and connect all the way to the armhole curve. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my dart, and I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I'll go ahead to place my ruler to connect, drawing out a straight line at this point. Now, after I'm done outlining, I'll go ahead to divide the remaining part of my shoulder into 2, and I will mark. Now, I'll place my ruler and connect it all the way to the bust line. Now, this is what I have. Let's go ahead to take my dart. I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides of my pattern. So if you're plus size or you're a bit busty, please go ahead to use 1.5 inches on both sides. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler to connect this all the way down and also connect at the other side. I'll also repeat this to the other side of my pattern and extend this all the way down. Now, after I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to use my marker and I'm going to outline my pattern to make it more visible. Now, I'll connect from the under bust to the bust and connect at the other side of my pattern. I'll go ahead to use my marker and I will outline my pattern. Next is to place your tape and determine where you want your bustier pattern to start. So I'll be using like 2 inches above my chest line and I'll mark. Now let's go ahead to take a dart intake. For my dart, I'll be using 0.75. You can also go ahead to use 1 inch if your bust is on the smaller size. For someone that is busty, you can use 1.5 inches at both sides. Now, after marking this, I will go ahead to place my curve drill and I will connect this all the way to this side, to the bust area. And I will go ahead to use my marker to outline. Let's go ahead to insert my body measurement. At the bust, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have roughly 8.3. Now, I'll pick this dart I have here. That is what I will replace here. And then add my sewing allowance of 1.5. Please, this 1.5 inches is not a standard. Use any sewing allowance of your choice. Now, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. And I will go ahead to pick this dart and I will replace it at the other side of this pattern. After marking that, I'll still go ahead to add 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. At the waistline, I will go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, which is 28 divided by 4 will give me 7. I will measure this dart intake I have here that I took out from my pattern, and I'll go ahead to replace it and then go ahead to add my sewing allowance. Now at the lower part, because of the basque at the lower part, so I'll just go ahead and mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and replace the dart intake. I won't add a sewing allowance because we are still going to cut short of that part. Now I'll place my pattern and I'll start connecting it. I'll go ahead to connect it all the way up to the waist and to the blouse or basque length of this dress first. Now I'll go ahead to use my marker and I'll outline my pattern. After outlining it, I'll go ahead to mark out the neckline or the bustier part of my pattern. Now you want to go ahead to come up by 1/2 inch. So I do this whenever I'm making a tube bustier pattern because I don't like my armhole to be too revealing, and I'll connect. So you can just go ahead to connect to your chest line. I'll go ahead to mark my bust dart, and to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. If you minus 15.5 from 17, you will have 1.5. The reason for marking a bust dart is so that by the time you blend the bust dart, your waistline at the front and at the back will match up. Now from the waist at the front, I'll come down by 2 inches because if you look at that dress, the waistline did not start exactly on the waistline of the pattern. I'll go ahead to blend my dart and I'll measure about 6 inches. Now you can use 5 to 6 inches for this because the basque looks like it's deep. But if you use 7 inches, I feel it might be too long, and I'll go ahead to connect from that point all the way down. Before connecting, come in by your sewing allowance so that your waistline at the back will meet that of the front, and I'll go ahead to connect. After connecting, I'll go in with my marker and I'll go ahead to outline. So we are almost done with the front pattern, and I'll just mark this to indicate that we are going to have a strap that will be going to the back of the neckline, and go ahead to label this as center front and side front. While cutting the lower part, I'm not okay with what I have. I'll blend and then readjust it a bit, and then blend out your dart when you're cutting this out, and I'll go ahead to cut out the rest of the pattern. So if you have any question regarding this pattern drafting, please kindly leave your question at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. Now let's move over to the back. I went ahead to mark my zipper. Now let's go ahead to mark my basic measurements. Remember, just like I said, my shoulder to bust is 9 inches. Now my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. Now remember, after the waistline at the front, we added additional 2 inches. So we'll add it to that of the back. Now we added a bust dart to the front. With the help of that bust dart, when we blend it out, the waistline of the front and the back will match. Now let's go ahead to draw out the straight line. Place my ruler and I'll rule out a straight line on these lines. Now I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 again, and I'll come down by 1 inch at this point. From this point, I'll place my ruler and connect. Next step is to go ahead to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, which I drew out a straight line there. I'll place my tape starting from the zipper, and I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2 again, and I will connect all the way up. Now I won't be marking my armhole curve because the pattern is that less. Now I'll go ahead to label my shoulder to chest line, bust, waist, and the additional 2 inches. Let's go ahead to mark my dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll mark this also at the lower part. I'll place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line all the way up. After marking this, I'll go ahead to come down by 1 inch from this point, and I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides of the waistline of my pattern. After marking this, I'll go ahead to place and I will connect. And I'll go ahead to connect on the other side of my pattern, extend what I have down to the dress length. Now let's insert my body measurement. At the chest line or the bust line, mark your bust circumference divided by 4, add your sewing allowance. Now at the waist, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4 and I'll measure the dart intake, replace, add my sewing allowance. The measurement I have at the waist, I'll just take it down to the extra 2 inches, place my ruler to connect. Remember, I went up by ½ inch from my chest line for the front. I'll do it and come down by ½ inch from the chest line. I'll also go ahead to connect. Why I came down by ½ inch at the zipper is so that my pattern will not be popping up at this point when making the dress. What I'll now do now is to take out my zipper bulge at the back. I'll mark ½ inch and I'll go ahead to extend this all the way to the upper part of my pattern. And the next step I will take is to go ahead to cut this out. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. This is what I have and you can go ahead to blend this out. Now for the lower part of this dress, what you're going to do is you're going to take your measurement from the shoulder to the full length of the gown. Now let's take the full length of my gown to be 40 inches, right? So remember, my shoulder to waist is 17 inches. And from that 17 inches, we added additional 2 inches after the waistline to give you that low waist effect on the dress. Now add that 17 inches from my shoulder to waistline plus additional 2 inches. It will give you a total of 19 inches. Now what I will do is I'll minus this 19 inches from the full length of my dress, which is 40. 40 minus 19 inches, which will give me 21 inches. So for the lower part of this dress, mine is 21 inches, but I'll be adding 2 inches to it for folding allowance, which will give me 23 inches. Now, what I'll now need for the full length or for the total lower part of this dress will be 3 yards by 23 inches or 4 yards by 23 inches. The 23 inches will be the width. The total round measurement I'll be using round the waistline will be 3 yards or 4 yards. So in our next video, I'll go ahead to cut out this dress and we'll be sewing it. So join us in the sewing part of this video.